Our first presenter is Angelina Brogan. She is co-chair of Atlantic Chapter and Travel Media Association of Canada, and she runs her own vlog, Bacon is Magic. So I'd like to welcome Angelina now. Good morning, Angelina.
Good morning.
How
Thank
are
you for
you?
having me.
We
Good.
are thrilled to have you. How are you doing this morning?
So good, so good. Very early, but it's great.
So I'm going to start by just asking a general question. If you can tell the students what it is that you do.
Yes. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I have a website. It's called Bacon is Magic, and it is about my travels around the world and making recipes at home. So I started this in 2010, but what I really wanted to talk about in advance of that was my time in high school, which was a long time ago. I'm the class of 1995. And when I was thinking about what to do with my life and what I wanted my career to be, I was very strong in science classes, took a lot of math, and so I found that the school really pushed me in that direction because I could do well in it. Although, to be honest, I found it quite boring. And at that time, when people were talking about careers, it was really if you're only going to be, a doctor or a lawyer, or maybe you would be an accountant. On the art side, perhaps you would be a novelist or a journalist, but we didn't really hear about all of the different things that people do. And so I was accepted to Dalhousie University for Science. And over the summer, I met someone who worked in public relations, which was about planning events and writing and photography and videos. And I realized those were all of the things that I was already interested in. I just didn't know that that existed. And so I was so thankful for that. And I quickly moved over from science to business, and then also applied for the public relations program at Mount St. Vincent University. And so that was an amazing program where, again, it was the business side of writing and video and all of these things, but it was much more the things that were interesting to me. So fast forward, I ended up working in public relations. And then finally, I spent 10 years working at an ad agency in Toronto, working on commercials for Shreddies, Cracker Barrel, Food Network. It was an ideal job. I was still on the kind of business side of things, but I worked with wonderful art directors and copywriters and photographers, and it was a dream job. But I decided to take a career break to travel in 2010, and I started a website. And at that time, bloggers it was just a hobby. No one was doing it as their profession. And Instagram did not exist. So we had Facebook, but really people only had personal pages. There were no groups or pages. And also there was Twitter. So social media was still very new. And so I spent 18 months traveling from Mexico to Argentina overland, not speaking Spanish when I arrived, and basically used this website as a journal. And so people started following along because they had also not heard about other people kind of quitting their job and choosing to travel and realizing that, it was safe and it wasn't as expensive as we all thought. And so slowly that turned into my career as countries asked me to come visit them. And I started working with brands. As we know, Instagram started, and now we have TikTok and everything. So this has been my full-time job for 7 years. And I find the biggest question that people ask me is, how lucky are you? Which is, yes, I am very lucky that I created my job. I am a creative entrepreneur. But also they ask me how I did it. Mm-hmm. And the truth is, it took 10 years to be where I am now, where it's my full-time living and I can comfortably live on this. I spend most of my time outside of Canada, traveling, a lot of it in Cuba, sharing stories of, where to eat and all of the cool little spots that locals go and locals dishes. And, when you go to Italy, this is how you order so you don't feel foolish when you don't speak the language. And so it is a dream job of mine to help others because I spend much of my time embarrassing myself in these countries. I don't mind, but I try to help people feel more comfortable when they travel. And so most recently, I have been guest hosting on a podcast called And She Looked Up. And that is for creative entrepreneurs. So it's people who have Etsy stores and are artists and create comic books. And so one of the biggest things that we've talked about is, you know, it is wonderful to be creative, and it is fantastic to be talented and passionate about something, but how do you truly make this your career? And so I would say in social media, one of the things that people chase is how many followers. How many followers do you have? How many people like your photo? And that's a very dangerous metric of how good are you. You don't need to have 1 million followers on Instagram. I want to see if I can share this again. So present now. Can you see my Instagram right now?
Yes, we
Awesome.
can.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. So what I wanted to share was you do not need to have 1 million followers to do this. I mean, if you look at my Instagram right now, I have 24,000 followers. It's not a huge part of my business, but it is something that I do. I also have Facebook, where I'm currently sharing videos of things to do around Nova Scotia. I also have YouTube, again, only 3,000 subscribers. And so one of the things I also wanted to talk about was you just need to understand what your business is. You don't need to be, blonde in your 20s, looking fantastic in a bikini on the beach. And so I wanted to share a couple of other people that I think are doing really wonderful work. 2 of them are Nova Scotian. So if you look at Alicia, she actually has almost 200,000 followers, and she is all about body positivity, and she's very popular. A lot of people can relate to her, and she does this full time. This is her full-time job, and she certainly, I think, is someone who has a lot of really great creative talent and is using it in a positive way. Another person that I wanted to talk about was Renee. I met her this fall, and she is all about encouraging Black travelers in Nova Scotia to be more public about their travel, because she felt that a lot of the content in the travel scene, again, was only white travelers. And so it's something that she wanted to encourage people to do. And she also has started up a tour company. So I think this is amazing what she's doing. And then finally, I wanted to share a channel. So this is Catnip. Catherine is a full-time Etsy business owner. She absolutely has a lot of followers, but she's been doing this again for years. And so in the beginning, you start off with not very many followers. And she shares things about what she's doing, and she also sells product on the site. And she, again, not your conventional, I think when we talk about content creators and influencers, it's always Kardashians or musicians or, different kinds of artists that are already famous, where you have a lot of, I would say, everyday people doing some pretty extraordinary things and using digital media as a way to do it. Let me go back to me. Can you see me now?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Perfect. My first time on Google Meet. And so, one of the things that I think is important is to understand you have your creativity, but you also really need to understand the business side of things. So when you're in school, please do take business classes, because the most successful creators have a business plan. They understand how to work with money, how to budget their time, how to do their taxes, all of these different implications that are so much more than just like the actual creating, the painting, the singing, all of these things. There's a business side to it. And so if you can this year, and as you go through, always look at, how can you incorporate your creativeness into entrepreneurship? And entrepreneurship is really business. And you can have a career in the arts, and it does not mean that you have to work for someone else. if anything, I think that we've all learned this year that no job is stable. A lot of people lost their jobs this year. And so entrepreneurship doesn't seem to be as crazy an idea because there are a lot of people doing it. And in times like this, we just shift along with the environment. And so when you create your job, you really have so much more control over that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Angelina,
what I wanted to share.
I love your message. I follow you, as you know, and
Yes.
I think everyone sits back at some point and says, "Man, I want her job." Like you said, with the travel and the food, and you're just so engaging. It's so fantastic. And I just want to touch a little bit on what you said about the importance of business as an artist. And many artists, just to elaborate on what you were saying, who are, in fine arts, or they are, a painter or whatever, when they get out there, they don't know how to market themselves or what their
Yeah.
value or worth is. And so then that's the role of an agent or a manager who helps them do that. But if you are able to take, control of that yourself, that is very valuable for sure. I know the students are going to have a million questions for you, but I'm going to keep going through here with the questions that I have. Can you walk us through, and I know you've had huge changes, and I'm going to let you touch on COVID and how that's affected your life. But can you walk us through a typical day in your life of
Sure.
work?
So I am very big on scheduling my time throughout the day. So I have throughout the year, I have a business plan. So I look at what I'm working on each quarter, each month, and then also each week. And so in the mornings, I typically wake up, have some tea, and then work through some emails, catch up on any comments or things that have come through on social media or on my site. And then I try only to spend 45 minutes on that. So I think when you work in social media, it's easy to stay like on TikTok all day or Instagram all day and think that you're actually doing work, but you're not doing work. So one of the biggest tips as a creator is that you need to be creating more than you're consuming. So I really try to create pockets in the day where I will be consuming, but because I'm most creative first thing in the morning, that's when I feel the most productive, when I can write the most. I spend usually the morning writing. So the morning is usually on my website, writing some kind of post. I try to post 3 times a week, although I've been doing that for nearly 10 years. And so now I post a little bit less. And then I work through editing photos. When it comes to shooting videos and editing videos, that's something new for me. So this year I took on creating video about Nova Scotia, and I find I'm most creative for that in the afternoon, late afternoon, early evening. So instead of fighting against what I naturally feel, I actually kind of go with it. So it's writing in the morning, video editing in the afternoon, and then I do a lot of batch work. So instead of, for Instagram, sitting down and doing an Instagram every day, I actually will spend one day and schedule the whole week.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what a typical day. But I would say also, because I write about travel and I share recipes, those days can change quite a bit. I can spend the whole day traveling or a whole week traveling and then catching up. The same thing for recipe development. I can cook something first thing in the morning, spend most of the afternoon editing and writing, and then finally getting that up for the next day.
Okay. I just heard back that you are still sharing your screen. So if you want to stop, just to present now, you can do stop sharing, and then they'll see your lovely face.
Stop
But it's up to you.
Okay.
There you go. What is the best part of your job?
So I never considered myself someone who would become an entrepreneur. I was very happy working in an advertising agency. It was a very creative environment, and I really loved the people that I worked with. But I really do love being an entrepreneur in that I choose who I can work with. And so if I don't like someone or I don't find that they're being respectful of me, I just choose not to work with them. One of the hardest things on the flip side is actually to be very diligent at working every day. So I'm on the flip side where I probably work a little bit too much, but you really do need to kind of set office hours, turn everything off, and sit and put your head to the laptop. So in travel blogging, and I think for Instagrammers. I've seen a lot of professional Instagrammers. I've been on trips with them. And we love to kind of perpetuate this myth that we are, sitting on the beach with our laptop. But if you've ever taken your laptop to a beach, you know that you can't actually see the screen. And all of those amazing Instagrammers who have those fantastic photos, they don't show you, that they spent a lot of time in a room on their laptop, just working and editing and thinking about what the future Instagram will be. And I'm sure the same is true for people on TikTok, is that there's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes in terms of planning and creativity, and also planning when they're going to shoot that. So there's a lot of office administration things that we don't think about, which is the flip side of creativity. And I know you talked about getting a manager as someone who could help you, but I would say you need to know first how to do things for yourself, so that you can judge if your manager or anyone else you hire in the future to represent you is doing the right thing. I've had people in the past come on as a trial to manage me and my work and working with brands and sponsors, and it wasn't the right fit. And I knew it wasn't the right fit because I had been doing it for so long that I could see that what they were doing wasn't the most productive. So whatever you hire out, you should really learn how to do yourself first.
That's great advice. And to know that that person has your best interests at heart.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And we did touch on COVID a little bit, but can you talk to the students about what you did this past 6 months and how that sort of changed with your regular routine?
Sure. So I returned back to Canada in March. I had been kind of based in Cuba for the last 2 years. And with everything happening and no one traveling anymore, no one was viewing my site, which meant all my advertising revenue was going down. And I could just see, sponsors abroad. I couldn't work with them. And so what I decided to do was, I had always wanted to shoot video. It's something that I've done in the past, but used an editor, and I wanted to learn how to do it. Thought I never had the time. So there was never a better time than this to do it. And then also I reached out to Tourism Nova Scotia and said, I would really like to share videos of how to spend a day in smaller towns in Nova Scotia. And so I will shoot all of this myself. We often take day trips around and then just share with people, here are some ideas. If you want to take a day trip to Yarmouth, this is a great restaurant, and don't forget this beach, and this store is really cute. And so since I've been home, I just finished up my 14th video and really turned my business around, in that I started doing it for Nova Scotia, and then also went over to PEI in the summer, worked with Yarmouth. Earlier this year, I was also in New Brunswick. This was something that I really challenged myself outside of my comfort zone, because I knew I wasn't going to be great. I've been writing for 10 years, and so I've got that down pat. But I took this on knowing it was very vulnerable and public, that people would see me and my videos were not going to be as great as I wanted them to be. But in the end, it was a good move for the business. And then also, I think as a creative, you constantly have to be in this mindset of being uncomfortable and doing things and experimenting is the right thing to do, because you will fail at 9 things, but you will succeed at the 10th. And so we always have to just keep pushing ourselves to that 10th thing.
Amazing. And I think you're a little hard on yourself, because the videos are amazing. They're super fun. They feel very Nova Scotian, right? You make us feel like we're at home. So yeah, they were great. And I strongly recommend that people check out your YouTube channel. It's just delightful. And so now I'd like to put it over to the teachers and the students to see what questions they have. It does take a minute for those questions to relay through the teachers, through the chat. What advice, and you've given a lot of advice, but we're talking this morning to students in grade 9, grade 10, 14 to 16 years old. Right now, what advice would you give them?
I would say that whatever you think you want to do now, it's okay if you don't want to do it in a year or 2 years or 10 years. The idea that we choose our career when we are 17 and we do that for the next 50 years no longer exists. And so a lot of people that I meet, especially in the creative field, have, like me, a background in something else. So some people may have been in accounting or all of these things. And so I think it feels like there's a lot of pressure to decide, who am I going to be forever? And the truth is, we all evolve, we all do different things. And if you, like I did, find yourself in a position where this is your career and it's not exactly what you want to do, you can always make a choice to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
And if that decision isn't the right decision, it's okay. You just make another decision and then just continue to follow what you think you want to do, and eventually you will find it. So don't stress out if you still don't know if you want to be a dentist or not.
Fantastic advice. Absolutely. We're just going to wait to see if there's any more questions here. Angelina, it's been so great to have you join us this morning. I'm sure that everyone, including me, sits back and says that's an incredible way to make a living, and it's great to see the influence that you have and what you've brought to the students this morning. And we just really, really appreciate that. And we know you're very busy, and the silver lining that we're all talking about through this COVID and just the new opportunities that you seized, it's remarkable.
Oh, there's one small question.
Oh, great.
So do I have any other jobs? No. So this is what I've done. This has been my full-time job for the last 7 years. I've been doing this for 10. So the first 3 years, actually, in order to make this work, I also was a virtual assistant for a number of people. So I managed different companies' Pinterest pages, Facebook pages. So I took the skills that I had and was able to do that while I was still traveling by finding remote work. And there are a lot of resources for that if you look up digital nomads. And I would just say the number one thing you have to do is you have to pay the bills. So you have to find a way in the beginning to pay the bills so that you can do what you really love, and then you grow your business into where it can be your, full-time job.
Thank you. We'll just be patient for a second to see if there's other questions. Does it provide a good living?
Yes, absolutely. So it is the same as if you worked for an ad agency. Now, I would say some people make more money than others, and that goes back to having a business centric plan. So there are a lot of very talented artists who are broke, and we've seen this like throughout centuries. But I find the most successful people are those with a business background and understanding things like, for example, it's not easy to get into video, but the future is video. And so I had to get over my own ego and decide this is what I wanted to do. And your business kind of changes over time. So I had the website where I make money through advertising. I work with different brands, food brands, lifestyle brands, and then also travel brands. So different destinations bring me in to create content. I create PDF guides that people can download, videos. I public speaking for different organizations. And so it's kind of understanding what you want your business to be, but you can, is your income guaranteed? Do you have a backup plan? No, of course, no income is guaranteed. You can work a full-time job and you could be fired tomorrow. So no one is ever guaranteed for any kind of income. I've been doing this long enough that I do have a sense of what my income will be. And also, I think you definitely need to be smart about your money and have a backup emergency fund for things like what happens this year. Mm-hmm. But if you're willing to work, then you can always find opportunity. And certainly, this was actually a really great year for me because I was able to take some of my skills and reach out to local destinations and say, hey, let's work together. And it was actually much more successful than I had planned, which was a really nice upside to 2020.
Amazing. Angelina, we're going to let you go. Thanks again for your time. If there are more questions that come through, I will forward them to you, and we would appreciate if you could take the time to answer those for the students. And I'm sure it does take time for them to think about that and then come up with those questions, and we appreciate that. But thanks again. Stay well, and all the best in the new year.
Okay, have a great year. Bye.
Bye-bye.